Welcome students. Today we will deliberate on a very important topic in political science, and the topic is political socialization. As we know that every political system has certain values, attitudes, feelings towards their political system, and this feeling might be affective, that is some emotional attachment with the political system. It might be just cognitive, that is having the knowledge of the political system, or it can be evaluative, about evaluating the performance of a political system. Whatever it may be, the fact is that this feeling, orientation, our attitude towards this political system is what comprises in the dictionary of political science is political culture. As we know that this political culture needs to be transmitted from one generation to another, the objective of today's class is to know how this transmission of political culture is done from one generation to another. What are the agents of political socialization? And we will at the end make a comparative study of political socialization of some liberal democratic countries, some transitional countries, and some authoritarian regimes. But first of all, let us see what we mean by political socialization. Now, political culture and political socialization is very closely linked. A political culture cannot survive if there is no process of transmission from one generation to the another generation. And this process of transmission of this orientation, this values, this attitudes about political system, this process, very process of transmission is known what some political scientists consider is as political socialization. It's a learning process. You come to be acquainted with your political system. You know how your political system functions. You know how you ought to participate in this political system. But without the knowledge of the political system, this is not possible. So on one hand, you need to have the knowledge, and this knowledge, how you come to acquire this knowledge, is very important. And here we will, in the middle of your lecture, discuss about the socializing agents. But as far as the concept is concerned, it is very important to know that political culture needs to be transmitted. The values need to be inculcated in the young minds who are becoming future citizens. And in this, the process of political socialization has an important function. As Michael Rush and Althoff has pointed out, that one needs to get acquainted with their political system, and this acquaintance is done by political socialization. Now, if we now look at the kind of socialization that we go through in our entire life, I say entire life because political socialization is not a one-time process, that you learn something for once and then you go on inculcating that particular value or attitude throughout your life. No, it's not like that. It undergoes changes and it has cycles. It is a process. It's a continuous process. It starts from a very early age and it continues till a person reaches his maturity and he is almost like 80-90 years old. So in this entire cycle of political socialization, we have different kinds of political socialization. So now we discuss the kinds of political socialization. The first point that I should make is that political socialization can be manifest, it can be latent. Now, what do you mean by manifest socialization? Now, manifest socialization is that when you explicitly inculcate values of the political system in young minds. This is very important. And where does or which are the agents which are involved in this manifest kind of socialization? Now, where does this socialization take place? To begin with, you can say the family. It plays a very important role while doing a kind of manifest kind of political socialization. It directly, explicitly, it inculcates the values of the political system in young minds. This can be one process. The other way where or other example of manifest political socialization, of course, is in your school curricula, in your college syllabus, where you have sometimes it is seen that the state apparatus consciously inserts syllabi or topics which consciously and directly aim young minds to give them a training of the kind of political ideology that particular political system wants the young people to learn, and not the other way round. So the school curricula or the textbooks or the syllabus is designed in such a way that the young minds would learn whatever the state wants them to learn. And we will give examples at the end of the lecture when we will make a comparative study of political socialization about some countries where this is done purposefully by state apparatus. Now, coming to the latent kind of political socialization. Now, latent means that it is not explicitly done, but it is indirectly acquired by an individual, or it is unknowingly inculcated into the habits of an individual. Now, how can this happen? Now, if you look at our family, now we obey our father, we obey our elders, we obey our mothers. So this kind of obedience to an authority inculcates in us a habit of obeying the political authority. This is kind of latent thing which nobody teaches us explicitly, but it is acquired as we live in a particular environment and we acquire these characteristics of obeying. So this is one kind of example, and you have plethora of example where non-political attitudes shape your thinking about your political system unknowingly. Now, if you look at other kinds of political socialization, you have certain kinds of particularistic kind of socialization. You have specific kind of political socialization. You have universalistic kind of political socialization. You have diffused kind of political socialization. You have instrumental kind of political socialization. Now, if you take up one after another, what do you mean by particularistic kind of political socialization? Is that when a young mind is fed a particular kind of thinking about the political system, then it becomes a particularistic kind of political socialization. For example, a particular kind of political social ideology is fed into young minds through school curricula, through university syllabi, then that becomes a particularistic kind of political socialization. Then universalistic kind of political socialization is when you have or you are encouraged to have a worldview kind of thing, like love towards democracy, love towards equality, liberty, fraternity. This allows you to develop a universalistic kind of feeling towards your political system and also towards the world. Then you can have specific kind of political socialization. This is almost in the same line of particularistic kind of political socialization, when specific values, attitudes are fed into young minds. Then you have instrumental kind of political socialization. Now, what does this mean? This is a different kind of or different genre of political socialization, because here there is an element of bargaining, there's an element of evaluation. You support or you have affection towards your political system. Then the last one, the diffused kind of system, is rather found in societies which are not so much matured kind of political socialization. They are going through transition. They do not have any clear views about their political system, and so the way they are politically socialized is very ambiguous and it is not very clear-cut. The primary agents of political socialization can be enumerated as the family, the school, the peer groups, the employment place, the religion, the caste, the ethnic factors, the racial factors. So we will take up one after another and we will discuss in the short span only a few, because if you go on to preparing a list about political socialization, there won't be an end to it. But let us just take up the primary ones first. The first and foremost, as we have discussed also earlier, agent of political socialization is the family. The family is where a child is born in and he is brought up and then he meets the rest of the world. But the family is the first point of contact for a child. Here, of course, in a manifested way or in a latent way, the child learns the political attitudes, values or behavior from his parents, relatives, elders, and which definitely leaves a mark on his psychological feeling towards the political system. So the family, the socialization lessons which a child learns doesn't end over here, because the next level of the political socialization happens when the child, particularly that little kid, goes to the school, and from the school to the college, and here he meets a very important socializing agent, the peer groups, his friends. In the schools, what happens, there is a two process that goes on. One, in his civic lessons, he comes to know about his country, the political system. In his history lessons, he comes to learn about the history of the country, the legacy that country has inherited, and there he develops a feeling of either affection or subjugation or total ignorance about his country. And in this process, another agent is also very important in the school and college level, and that is the friends. The friends, their thinking, their feeling, their family background, they now come to have an impact upon their friends' psychological orientation towards the political system. The next level is his employment. When this particular person gets employed in a particular company or a government enterprise, whatever, or in a school or college, that particular workplace has particular kinds of problem, particular kinds of advantages and disadvantages for that person, and from that the person develops an urge to mingle with his colleagues, form certain unions, or this is when it comes to a union, it becomes an institutionalized sort of interaction, but he can also informally interact with his colleagues in social clubs or at home, whatever. But here the question is about bread and butter. So when the question is about bread and butter, they know that now they have to bargain with the authority, whether it's a private enterprise, and if it's a state enterprise, a government enterprise, they have to bargain with the governmental authority. So when this comes into fore, this bargaining with the government, here the political socialization plays a very important role, because whatever he has learned in his life around 28 years or 30 years, he might find that that is getting shattered. Whatever love or affection he had inculcated towards a political party or towards a political system seems to be shattered, because now his bread and butter, question of bread and butter, is at stake. So this is another level of political socialization. Then in countries like India, you have religion, you have caste factors, which also have very important impact upon the political socialization of a particular person. If he belongs to a particular religion, there we know that how the religion nowadays is kind of influencing the feelings of people or persons in acting, whether in a positive way or in a negative way in a political system. Now if you come to ethnic factors, that too has a very important impact in the learning process of the young people regarding his political system. Then you have class factors, you have caste factors, you have kind of racial factors, which all become important whenever we talk about the political socialization of any individual. Now, I must mention the most important socializing agent in the life of a person, especially in the post-globalization era, is the explosion of the mass media. Now here when we talk about mass media, now there's a trend of social media too. So I must say that we must first clarify what is the mass media and what is the social media. Mass media is comprises the electronic media, the TV, the radio, what we have, and the print media, the newspaper. And social media is what the young people are addicted to almost, the digital media, the Facebook, the Twitter, the blogs that we have every now and then, and we cannot live without that. Now, these are having definite impact upon the political socialization of a person. Now, the newspaper or the radio, the television, through their telecasts, through their newspaper reporting, keep the people apprised about the present situation of their country. And this also helps to develop your evaluation towards your political system. And the social media is a two-way information exchange system. Now, as far as mass media is concerned, you cannot share your idea, but it is the social media, the world of social media, which gives you the chance to form groups, to share your ideas, to have likes or to have dislikes. Here we must say, acknowledge the fact that the social media is a two-way kind of information exchange where you can share your values, you can have your groups, you can share your ideas, whether positive or negative, about your political system. But there is also a disadvantage for the social media, because sometimes we think that there are certain hate sites, there are certain types of messages that are put on the social media which might hamper the national unity, integrity and security of the country. we come to a comparative analysis of the process of political socialization in certain liberal democratic countries, certain transitional countries, and certain authoritarian regimes. Now, why I do like this, if I had selected country specifically as if USA, UK, then it would have been difficult. Rather, if we club them as liberal democratic countries and discuss the trend of political socialization, more or less we will find that the political socialization process is more or less quite similar. Now, if we take the case of USA and UK and Switzerland, we will see that the young people, the researchers, the current researchers, they're showing that the young people are not feeling so much well disposed towards their political system. They lack interest in political system, and they are apathetic to their political system. Whereas this is one half of the research, whereas the other people who are doing social researches on young minds and their political socialization, they have shown that if we see the end result of political socialization is engagement with the political. Now, if we see this as a wider concept, we have to divide this engagement into political engagement and civic engagement. And in these countries, the trend is that political engagement, that is campaigning, that is participating in political parties or going around for election campaigns, are of lesser importance or lesser interest to the young people. Whereas the civic engagement, that is service-oriented engagement towards the entire society, is on rise. We can find the students, they are volunteering in various kind of social services. So, whereas the political engagement seems to be less in liberal democratic countries, the civic engagement is on the rise. But another study which says that the political engagement of the young people has taken a different form after globalization and explosion of social media. They are the more online people. They are the netizens. They are citizens as well as netizens. And on the net, they are kind of exchanging their views, forming groups, as I have told you. And the most important example which can be cited at this point is the 2008 Obama election, when the young Americans, they had used the social media. They have put on this very specialized sites, and they have done massive online campaigning for the presidential candidate, and the end result we all know. So the young people in liberal democratic countries nowadays are more netizens and onliners than active participation in the politics. Now, as far as transitional societies are concerned, if we look at Russia, it has gone through the phases of Tsarist, authoritative Tsarist regime, then the Communist Party regime, and under the presidential rule, it is struggling to compromise between modernization and its traditional set of ideologies. And what we find is that in Russia, whereas the governmental apparatus is gradually establishing a strong kind of control over the public minds, the people, the young people, because they are exposed to the social media and internet facilities, they are trying to develop a more kind of liberal kind of thinking, a more democratic kind of thinking. So it has to be closely watched how modernization and how this authoritative compulsion of the political system actually adjusts itself in Russia. And as far as China is concerned, I have talked about that you use your syllabus or you design your syllabus in such a way that your history or your political ideology can be fed into the young minds. And this is exactly what happens in China, where school textbooks are published by Ministry of Education over there, and it is totally tailored according to the requisites of the Chinese Communist Party, the sole party over there, and which runs authoritarian regime. Though in the outset it tries to be a people's democratic republic, but the human rights records are quite low as far as China is concerned, and the political stability and maintaining the status quo is the primary aim of the Chinese political system. So everything is tutored, is designed in that way. So today we come to the end part of a discussion on political socialization. We have learned what we mean by political socialization, the different kinds of political socialization, agents of political socialization, and we also have done a little bit of comparative study of political socialization in different countries. Thank you.